Hello everyone, my name is Cody Douglas, and I'm here today to talk about the results section of the study Oxytocin Modulates Social Distance Between Males and Females. As you know, the researchers who conducted this study wanted to determine if oxytocin functioned differently in single men and men in committed, monogamous relationships. They used two groups in their study to examine the impact of oxytocin. One received oxytocin intranasally before being tested, while the other group intranasally received a sodium chloride solution as a placebo. Researchers found no significant difference between these groups when comparing subjects' levels of verbal memory performance, nonverbal reasoning IQ, verbal IQ, visual attention and concentration, visual attention and task switching, working memory, mood, anxiety, and personality traits. Simply put, researchers were able to conclude that both groups had roughly equivalent demographic, neurological, psychological, and personality characteristics, so they knew that any differences among the groups could be attributed to their procedures. Since researchers conducted their research with two experiments, I'll discuss the results of each experiment separately. To begin, let's talk about the first experiment they ran, the stop distance paradigm. The results of the first experiment carry some interesting implications about the effect oxytocin has on single men and pair-bonded men. This test had subjects state where they were comfortable with a female experimenter standing to determine their personal space. So we're interested in the effect that subject relationship status, person moving, starting distance, eye contact, and presence of administered oxytocin have on each subject's personal space. Researchers ran an analysis of variance test, or ANOVA, on collected data to establish the mean personal space scores for the factors I just listed and to determine how a factor correlates with subjects' preferred personal space. They also conducted a t-test on the data to determine the significance of differences between factor groups and found that pair-bonded men desired a great amount of space between themselves and a female experimenter than single men. The presence of oxytocin does not appear to have influenced this difference between single and pair-bonded men. And it is worth noting that these particular results came from the survey portion of the experiment, not the actual trial. You can see here the charts included in the study to visualize the data. The chart on the left shows trials where the experimenter was moving, and the chart on the right displays the trials that had the subject moving. These charts help show that subjects who started closer to the experimenter and moved back to their ideal distance, or had the experimenter move away, put more space between the experimenter and themselves than subjects who started further away from the experimenter and had themselves or the experimenter move closer. You can also see how eye contact is a significant factor in trials where the experimenter was moving, as single men who were given oxytocin had a larger area of personal space when they made eye contact with the experimenter. Beyond this finding, there was little variation in the distance single men wanted to keep, regardless of whether they received oxytocin. Both of these charts also clearly show that when exposed to oxytocin, pair-bonded subjects maintained a much greater distance from the experimenter than single men who received oxytocin and single or pair-bonded men who received the placebo. Pair-bonded men who had been exposed to oxytocin also felt uncomfortable at a greater distance than pair-bonded men who had not received oxytocin, though this finding only appeared when the experimenter was tasked with moving. Researchers also noted that when asked about the female experimenter, all subjects reported that she was highly likable, so oxytocin did not appear to alter how the subjects perceived the experimenter. On a final note for this section, it's also worth mentioning that the effects of oxytocin were not present in a control experiment that used a male experimenter. The researchers believed that this finding suggested that oxytocin has a specific role in pair bond maintenance among men. The second experiment measured subjects' errors as they completed an approach avoidance task to see if the effects of oxytocin from the first experiment also appeared in a more general context. Researchers were looking to see how subjects' relationship status and exposure to oxytocin influenced their valence, meaning their aversion or attraction to presented social and non-social pictures. Additionally, they measured subjects' reaction time and errors. I've included the charts here. The left is for subjects' responses to social pictures, and the right is for subjects' responses to non-social pictures. Again, the researchers used an ANOVA and t-test to determine the significance of their findings. When dealing with social pictures, pair-bonded men took significantly longer to respond to positive pictures when they had been exposed to oxytocin, though single men do not significantly differ in their response times, regardless of their exposure to oxytocin. Pair-bonded men also made more errors when judging positive social pictures after they received oxytocin. Despite these significant differences, all subjects had similar valence ratings for positive social pictures. Researchers took the results of both experiments as evidence that oxytocin inhibited pair-bonded men from approaching attractive women without altering their opinions of the women. And with that said, I believe that I've covered major findings of the study. Thank you for watching.